Let's start. Namaskaram and a warm welcome to all of you. On behalf of Ayurveda Conversations 2025, we are delighted to have you join us for this pre-conference webinar, a curtain raiser to the dialogue we will be engaging in later this year. Ayurveda Conversations is envisioned as a space for deep reflections and dialogues on the principles of Ayurveda, bringing together teachers, practitioners, researchers, and students. This initiative is inspired by the life and work of Shri P.R. Krishnakumar, who dedicated himself to the revival and propagation of authentic Ayurveda and Indic knowledge systems. His vision was not just about healthcare, but about nurturing a holistic way of life rooted in wisdom and compassion. This year, Ayurveda Conversation turns its focus to one of the most vital foundations of practice, Nidana. Nidana is not just about diagnosis in a narrow sense, but about understanding the very roots of disease, the pathways of imbalance, and the art of discerning health and illness. By dedicating this year's dialogue to Nidana, we hope to explore its many dimensions, from the Nidana Panchaka to Samprapti, from academic perspectives to clinical relevance. Today's pre-conference webinar sets the stage for that exploration. Today's theme is one that lies at the very heart of Ayurveda practice, the art and architecture of Ayurveda diagnosis. Today we have Dr. Rahul R. Nair with us. He is a dedicated clinician, academician, and researcher, currently serving as professor in the Department of Roga Nidana at Ashtangam Ayurveda Vidyapeetham, Palakkad. With his deep grounding in Ayurveda and sharp diagnostic acumen, he has guided many students and practitioners in appreciating the subtle art of Nidana. Dr. Rahul is also one of the key curators of Ayurveda Conversations 2025, shaping this year's theme on Nidana and helping bring together a diverse voices for meaningful dialogue. It is our privilege to have him lead today's session. With that, I warmly welcome Dr. Rahul and all of you to this session. Let us begin. Welcome, Dr. Rahul.
Thank you, Dr. Sreeja, for these nice words. And I welcome all of you to this webinar. All the assembled audiences, all the organizers of this particular event. And at this juncture, we are here to have an inaugural, or rather a pre-inaugural conversation, or a pre-inaugural chapter. I will say it is a crosstalk that should happen before any meaningful conversation to happen regarding the most foundational aspect of Ayurvedic clinical practice. And as a person from Roga Nidana background, I may say that many a time avoided or obscured art of Roga Nidanam or diagnosis. So this cornerstone word, diagnosis, or rather Roga Nidanam, Roga Nirnayam, etc., has been widely used in many of the sessions, many of the discussion platforms. Yet, many a time in an Ayurvedic circle, we are tempted to talk more about the different procedures, the different types of Shamana Aushadhis, Rasayana Aushadhis, etc. Instead of talking more about why they are selected in a particular situation, how they are selected for dealing a particular Samprapti, or rather which area of Samprapti, which area of this disease process this particular drug is going to work upon. More than that, as a community, we are tempted to talk more about the procedures, medicines, etc. But whereas the standpoint of our Acharya is extremely different than what we are doing currently today. He had already stated his standpoint regarding this issue that Roga Madhav Pariksheda Tado Anandaram Aushadham. And Parikshagarino hi Kusala Bhavanti, that somebody who examines not only the disease, each and every situation in the life is mentioned as Kushala. And also, he says he is of the opinion that if something is happening without logic, if some positive effect is available in clinical practice due to some medicine or procedures, but you cannot explain the logic behind that, then that success will be a happenstance. Vina tarkena ya siddhi yadricha siddhi revacha. Charaka says that it is yadricha siddhi. It happens because of some luck factor that happens. If you cannot explain why you have given that particular medicine, many a time in our conversations, very sad to say in between in our professional settings, the anecdotal experiences will be given very high stand by stating that this particular drug I had given in that particular patient. Then suddenly the result was excellent. But whether that result was will be that particular clinical result will be repeatable in other clinical situation, that is yet to find out. But if you are having a particular logic behind the application, if you are having a particular framework where a particular drug is supplied, that particular framework is belonging to the framework of Roga Nidanam. So, how the Ayurvedic diagnosis? See, many a time because of our colonial mindset, or want to say a colonial education setup for 10 plus 2 years, we are learning in that particular setup. We are tempted to behave more like the biomedical practitioners in a way that we are tempted to make term diagnosis more. So if somebody comes with fever, we will write Jwara. Somebody comes with rheumatoid arthritis, we are tempted to write Vadarakta. You see a patient with anemia, we are tempted to write as Pandu. So whether or somebody is coming with a back pain with radiation, we are instantaneously writing Ritrasi, and that may be helping, or that may be working in a situation, mostly in the examination. That means when you are facing the bedside exam, then only that will be helpful. Rather, if you want to go beyond that, the term-based diagnosis must get elaborated into a very elaborated framework where if you say somebody is having fever, you should say that whether that particular person is having which type of fever, whether he is having Ekadoshaja Jwara, Didoshaja, or Tridoshaja Jwara. And simply by stating that the patient is having Sanipadika Jwara elevates the clinical aggressiveness of the situation. So by the language, if you say that the patient now is having Sanipadika Jwara, it alerts the other clinician that the person who is now in the ward with Sanipadika Jwara is a patient having clinical aggressiveness, and your aggressiveness as a clinician should be more in that case. Or rather, we should have to put additional adjectives into that terrain where we need to tell whether that particular Jwara is Saumya or Tikshna, whether that particular Jwara is Prakrita or Vaikrita, whether it is Sharirika or Manasika, whether it is Sama, Nirama, or Pachyamana. Likewise, we have to further elaborate the diagnosis. And again, still, even if it is a Sanipadika Jwara, there are two different possibilities whether it belongs to the category of Dahadi or Shidadi Jwara. And again, if somebody is having a chronic fever, that he comes to us with a relapse remittance pattern of fever, then again other elaborate areas of diagnosis awaits. And even a diagnosis of Sanipada Jwara is further diversified into different types by the later Acharyas too. So likewise, our diagnosis is a very elaborate one, not a term diagnosis. And moreover, if you get a diagnosis for one particular patient during the same period of admission, that may change. This diagnosis may change from one particular area to another area. Somebody who is coming with a motor neuron disease and later, suppose it got worsened, and the patient is getting day by day bedridden, maybe he might have been entering into another terrain called Rajekshma, more than the terrain of Avarana. So likewise, the terrains of diagnosis may also change. And so the art of Ayurvedic diagnosis is extremely flexible, extremely dynamic one, wherein the clinician is to say he is standing along with the patient, going back to the life of the patient to see what all factors he has been using in his life, his dietary pattern, his lifestyle, his sleep pattern, his level of mental stress, and even I will say the climatic conditions, the place where he lives, all these factors come into the consultation table. And so the architecture of Ayurvedic diagnosis, I will say, is like a big budget movie. I will say it is almost resembling like somebody who is going to take a director's role in a movie like a Bahubali, wherein the eye of the director should reach each and every person. Maybe you might have seen in certain shots of such great movies, such big budget movies, there will be one or two main actors, and there will be thousands of sub actors or supporting actors. And in such a movie, the eye of the director should be reaching, or rather, it will reach to each and every person to see whether his costume, his direction, his looks, everything matches to the framework of that particular story. And even a single person, maybe in a movie like Bahubali, in a big shot, if you can see that even a single person among the hundreds of them, if somebody is using a mobile phone, then their shot is wasted. So, such a thing is Ayurvedic diagnosis. It's a very elaborate activity, but it is elaborately conceptualized. And if you are into that culture, if you are into that framework, it becomes very easy. And and by stating these facts, let me enter into my presentation. I have made these facts into an ordered statement. And what we are going to see now is just a, what to say, just a cut and razor of what we are going to see in our conversations. I think we can, the slide is visible and it is moving. So
Yes.
I welcome you all to this conversations pre-conversation crosstalk. It's just like a tea time chatter we are going to do about what happened, what is going to happen in the conversation, about what special entity on which this upcoming conversation is going to happen. And before that, my pranams to the dreamer and doer who was there in Coimbatore and who is still in our hearts, Dr. Krishnakumar sir, who has, I think, conceived the essential framework of Ayurveda, the essential nature, its uniqueness of Ayurveda, and the way it should be taught, it should be studied. He is having very fundamental concepts, and he was a great champion of all those things. And I think whenever he was raising his voice for all these things, he had the stakeholders in his mind, the students of Ayurveda. That's why I think he has crafted these programs like conversations, as well as the other programs which were offered, which is being offered by the AVP group of institutions like Tattva Prakashini, wherein he want to be with the students. He want to offer them the real flavor of Ayurveda to those who arrive to him, and to make them work more when they go back to their campuses. So what I really feel is that coming to AVP Coimbatore to attend any of these programs is just like coming from a campus, reaching a particular area where there is presence of Krishnakumar ji, and becoming inspired, going back to campus for doing more work. So I offer my humble pranams to his lotus feet. And let me start with a few of our achievements, which many of you will be knowing. Many a time we feel, who are we as a 21st century Ayurvedist? What is our what speciality, or what is our tradition? Who are we? Many times we are coming to this field of Ayurveda, writing an entrance examination, which happened to be directed towards another course, but later we are bifurcated to this particular course. So we may not be feeling that we are part of an esteemed community, an esteemed professional group, which is having existence in the Indian subcontinent for past 2,500 years, surely, or rather more than that. So we are the persons who first used iron in the management of anemia. We are the persons, we are the professionals who explored the connection between the spleen and the blood. We are the persons who documented the involuntary movements first in our textbooks and its management under the heading of Akshepaka Vyadhi. And we were the first persons to suspect, or rather prove, that Pakshavadha, or what we see in a case of hemiplegia, is not the problem of that one side. It's rather the problem is related to somewhere else. The original problem is somewhere else. You might be knowing the very famous Chikitsa Sutra of Pakshavadha by Susruta. He says that Vaisheshika Chatra Mastishkya Shirovasti Prasasyade. He is telling that he documented the fact that in this case of hemiplegia, the real event has happened much before. And that particular event, the Sira and Snayu, which is coming from Shiromarma to that particular side of the body, is weakened, or rather dried up. And because of that Shoshana, that particular Sira Snayu needs to be nourished. And for that purpose, he has advised Shirovasti. So you should think that this happened, these suspicions happened much earlier than the imaging studies have came into being. And they were having a very original concept regarding the human diseases and the way to approach them. And you may be surprising of the fact that how they might have conceived the use of iron in the management of anemia. That's one of the shining examples of the concept of disease in Ayurveda. In Ayurveda, pallor, or those who are having pallor as the Vishishta Lakshana, is bracketed to the Samprapti of Pandu. And Acharya says that Panduamayam Shonidage Kaphe. That is the Dushti of Kapha, the settlement of Kapha in Shonida or Rakta Dhadu is to be mentioned as Pandaroga. It results in the manifestation of Pandaroga. So here the Kapha is settled in Rakta Dhadu, and you need to cut it off so that the Samprapti Vikhatanam happens. But if you are going to cut the Kapha which is located in the Rakta Dhadu with some Ushna Ushadhi, it is going to create Pitta Vritti, or Pitta, the problems with the Pitta Dushti, that may lead the Samprapti in another way. So they want a tool which is having a property to do the Kapha Chedanam without increasing the Pitta Dosha. So they are having a very good selection of IS. There is another tool like that called Shilajadu. But here they have selected IS and modified it into different pharmaceutical agents. One very fine example is Navayasa Churna, which contains Trigadu, Triphala, Trimadam plus IS. So the Trigadu is having strong Debana Pajana property, Triphala is having Rasayana Guna, and the Trimadam is having good Pajana in the Dhatu level. So all these potentiates the IS which is added to that, and that has been used for centuries in Ayurveda. So see the concept. This is the way. But in the modern parlance, when they know that the hemoglobin contains iron, and when there is a shortage of hemoglobin, iron supplementation is given. That is another approach. It's different from our conceptualization. So this is the way we conceptualize. This is the way we arrive at the drugs, by using the principles of diagnosis in Ayurveda. And how they arrived at this process, what is their modus operandi of the ancient clinicians. I still feel that the ancient clinicians are the persons who are having much more keen observatory powers than us. They are much more good observers. They are having more than enough time. They are not like the people like us who are having less time because of unnecessary things, not because we are doing great things. It is because of unnecessary things like maybe social media, maybe other activities. But these people, they are very good observers. They are having more than enough time to observe the patients, observe the nature. And because of their observation, if you want to have a clear look into the observation capabilities of the ancient clinicians, you should visit Charaka Samhita, Sutrasthanam, Vadakala Galiyam chapter. And in that, you will see that how they have accomplished to build up the Tridosha theory. So they have identified the same bioenergies which are present in the nature as that present in the being and is termed them as doshas. So it's just as simple as that. We are having a Siddhantam called a Loga Purusha Siddhantam, wherein we say that what all bioenergies, what all features that bioenergies exhibit when they are seen in the nature, the same features they will exhibit when they are seen in the body also. So here, instead of using the term being, body, I am using the term being because Ayurveda essentially is the science of being rather than essence. It is the science of, it is sometimes widely or somewhat wrongly translated as science of life. Maybe it is a science of life, but more than that, it is a science of beingness. So what is that beingness? The beingness is termed in our science as Purusha, is like that. It is the coexistence of body with the sense organs, mind, and intelligence. And very cleverly, Acharya has observed that logas tishtati samyogat. So this entire world is, or the loka is situated on the basis of the coexistence of the body, mind, and intelligence. Why? Because if it separates, you cannot perceive the loga. The loga is existing, you are existing. So existence or beingness is what the life represents. So Ayurveda is essentially the science of beingness. Many a time in my class, which is in my college, which is in Kerala, I am of the opinion that I used to tell my students that there is no correct term for being in Malayalam, but instead in Tamil, as session is going to happen in Coimbatore, I may say there is a term called Valvu. Valvu means irip or something which is existing. So existence or beingness is what Ayurveda is speaking about. And that in that existence, there are bioenergies, and those bioenergies that represents the control, that represents metabolism, that represents the sustenance. All these bioenergies are grouped together as doshas, and they have seen the same bioenergies in nature. Just like they have mapped that there are only three types of major bioenergies in nature. One is heat, one is cold, and the third one, that which distributes the heat and cold on the surface of earth, that is the wind. So likewise, there is pitta and kapha and vada inside the body. And this is the starting point of Ayurvedic diagnosis also. And they have very special concepts regarding the body on which this bio forces are acting. And they say that there is a essential platform, a basic hardware on which this body is existing. It is nothing other than the network of major marma, minor marma, then the connections between them, the connections between these marma and the sandhi, the joints of the body, and the connectors that are working in between. All these are linked together to form a platform on which the body is existing, and this platform is known as Madhyamaroga Marga. And on that platform, there is a central tube which is allocated for uh, to work as a basis or the mahasrodhas of the body. It is known as the Abhyantara Roga Marga. And there is peripheral operating channels which makes up the Bahiroga Marga. So this is the concept where the body is seen in an Ayurvedic vision. So they are having this concept of nature, its bioforces, the being, the bioforces acting on that, and how the body is constructed, how the body is formed. And on this platform, the Ayurvedic diagnosis is working. Why I am telling like this? Because it's just like if you are, we are not having that clarity regarding the basics of Ayurveda and its concept of the body or sharira. What will happen? It's like going to a cricket match uh, by knowing only the laws of football. We are knowing only about football and going to see a cricket match, and every time the ball is touched by hand, we will rise up and shout that it is a foul. And many times this happens in today's discussions, many discussions in online platforms also, wherein we are discussing about Ayurveda by staying outside its field, by staying outside its framework. Only when we come inside the framework and embrace it, being inside that, we will start to understand why these are constructed like this, why these make some sense. So, how they looked upon these changes. So now we have just have a simple glance over the very basic foundational aspect on regarding the existence, the structure of body likewise. And now how the diseases are happening, why the diseases are happening. So they are having a unique theory that the variation of gunas in nature will vary the gunas of the body, and in turn they may affect the dosha, because the doshas by itself, they are composed of gunas. So whenever there is a variation in the external environment, this happens very naturally. So that's why we say Ayurveda diagnosis is more natural, more organic. Whenever somebody is coming to our consultation table, we are actually taking that person back to his own setting, his own house, his own workplace, to see how he is living, at what time he is waking up, at what time he is going to bath, what type of oil he is using for bathing. Likewise, all the subtle aspects of his daily life is being plotted, mapped, and then we are finding out why this person got this particular disease. And that happens to be, in my very little experience with the patients, I could say that the patients are very much satisfied if you tell them what is essentially happening in their body in a very organic way, rather than taking some blood test. Yes, of course, the blood test is having very good value, but uh, the explanation regarding the cause of illness in a very organic way will be having a profound impact on the patients, rather than telling that your high sensitive CRP is so much raised and hence you are having cardiovascular risk. Of course, it is having a value, but telling that if the patient is having a lot of Rakta Dushti Nidana, Pitta Dushti Nidana, Kapha Dushti Nidana, and telling that this is happening in their body, they are having a very good listening, and they can accommodate what all changes can be made. So that aspect is highlighted in all these slogas. These slogas are from Ashtanga Hridayam, Sutrasthanam, Dosha Bhediyam. See, in Ashtanga Hridayam, the Acharya has rightly captured how the changes happening in the nature is going to subtly alter the balance of guna in the body, resulting in changes in dosha. So the doshic fluctuation is happening throughout the year. It's not within our control. It's we can subtly change it, but it's not readily in our control, and it happens naturally. And that is what is mentioned in these slogas. For example, Ushnena Yukta Rukshadhyaha Vayoho. Whenever we say Rukshadhya, the gunas of Vada, we say yes. Oh, then suddenly we will feel that Vada is going to vitiate. No, the combination is like this, Ushna and Ruksha. And when Ushna and Ruksha combines together, there happens the Sanjayam of Vayu. And suddenly when the season changes, and these Rukshadi gunas come in contact with the Shida guna, then suddenly what happens? The Vada Kobha happens. And if you want to bring about the pacification or shamanam in that particular clinical situation, you need to combine this Ushna guna with the Snigdha guna to bring down the influence of Vayu. So likewise, if these gunas fluctuates in the external environment, the same gunas will change in our body. Hence, there will be a variation in the doshic status of the body. I think all of you will be very much familiar with these slokas. Maybe the students will be here, first year students will be here. They should go and refresh these slokas to see what Acharya is trying to tell you in that particular context in Dosha Bhediya. And what they had done next, they have seen this as the guna variation is happening in the external environment. It is bringing up doshic variation in the body. How to plot that? And they have done an extensive study of the birth and progression of a disease process, of disease processes. I have wrongly written as a disease process. No, disease processes in the Indian subcontinent. I'm very proud to say that extensive work on disease epidemiology. Actually, our Samhitas, whether it is starting from the Charaka Samhita or up to the recent textbook of Basavarajiyam, we can see that they are all documented evidences or documented statements regarding the fluctuations in disease processes that might have happened through centuries in the Indian subcontinent. It should be seen like that. The diseases which are seen in the time of Charaka, the disease spectrum which is mentioned in Basavarajiyam, they are having a lot of difference. And why this difference coming? Because there is a lot of epidemiological changes that happened in the Indian subcontinent during that period from 2nd BC to 17th century AD. And they have tried to isolate the coordinates that drive the disease processes forward. So we know they could see that there are a lot of disease processes happening. In some disease, suddenly the patient is telling that he is having severe lethargy and he is getting very cold. Yet when you go and touch the patient, you feel very hot. This is simply what we say it as jwara. So they identified a disease process happening and they have identified different coordinates, different changes in the diet, lifestyle. They termed it as Nidana. How that operates and starts the disease processes and what drives these disease processes. And they constructed model-based pathogenesis. This line is very, very important. Why? Because we are having a model-based pathogenesis and a very personalized diagnostic methodology. These are the highlights of Ayurvedic diagnostic methodologies. So we are having model-based pathogenesis. Model-based. We are not having simple disease-based pathogenesis. We are having pathogenetic models which are very much precise, predictive, and personalized. So this is the glamour of Ayurveda. Now as you see, the modern diagnostic institutes, the research institutes, they are now working hard to create disease models for each and every disease. And they are using AI and machine learning to develop new disease models. Now we are having different models with us. To that, you can feed the properties of a particular patient, then you can see what is going to happen to that particular patient by just simply observing the patient in the consultation room or in the bedside. In a sense, Ayurvedic diagnosis is a very different exercise when compared to its biomedicine equivalent. I will say the exercise, biomedical diagnostic exercise is much crude, much inorganic when compared to the Ayurvedic diagnostic methodology. And the originators of disease processes, wherever you go, in whatever period of your life or in whichever century is whatever disease is going to happen, the drivers or originators of this disease process will be common. The Nidana will be the same. They have bracketed into broadly classified them as Asatmendriyartha Samyogam, Prajnaparadham, and Parinamam. And you can ask me that what was the cause behind COVID-19? We can definitely say that as per our available information is something which is related to Prajnaparadham that had driven the passage of disease-causing microorganisms from uh, the, uh, the meat to the human body. So likewise, any Nidana may happen in any time in future. You can broadly put it in any of these groups. So they have identified the basic drivers of disease process also. And now, what is the dual role of an Ayurvedist in 21st century is to stay hard and fast to our tradition in diagnosis and to incorporate also, we need to incorporate the rapid technological developments to our clinical practice, because those technological developments will also merge seamlessly to the broad-based diagnostic models given to us by our Acharya. And now coming to the Ayurvedic diagnostic methodologies, I am going to move through them in a bit faster way. We can see that what we do daily in clinical practice, what is our workflow, what is the process, what we are doing in the consultation table is simply this construction of Abhyantara Vigrdi Parambara from the Lakshana Samashti put forward by the patient. We are having a textbook called Siddhanta Nidanam, written by Acharya Gananath Sen, and in that textbook, he says, Tattat Lakshana Samashtidaya Bodhitavya Abhyantara Vikriti Parambara Paramatado Roga Eva. He says, definitely, Roga is nothing about Lakshanas. Something which you are telling us Lakshanas, it is Lakshana Samashti or a symptom complex. That symptom complex, the patient is coming with that symptom complex. Patient tells some symptoms, you identify certain signs, and that forms this Lakshana Samashti. And by using that Lakshana Samashti, you are trying to construct an Abhyantara Vigrdi Parambara. See the term? It's not Vigrdi, it's Vigrdi Parambara. It's not external, it is internal. So it is an internal pathological cascade. Cascade means a very slow moving waterfall. So it's just like how these disease, how these processes worked together to make one person get into the disease bed. This is this construct, this writing process is known as Abhyantara Vigrdi Parambara. And what about the Vyadhi, which is told in major Samhita like Charaga, Susruta, Ashtanga Hridaya, and Ashtanga Sangraha? They are actually recorded patterns of Abhyantara Vigrti Parambara. See, Jwara is a recorded pattern of Abhyantara Vigrti Parambara. Grahani is yet another pattern. Vadaraktam is yet another pattern. They are not diseases. They are, see, that's why the people ask us, is there COVID-19 mentioned in your textbook? Do you have a medicine for cancer? Do you have a medicine for AIDS? Do you have a medicine for Zika virus disease? Can you treat prion disease? Can you treat evolving autoimmune diseases? Oh, yes, if you can treat it, whether those diseases are mentioned in your Samhitas or not. So it's pure inquisitiveness to see whether SLE is mentioned in our Samhita. See, instead, in our Samhita, we are having broad pathogenetic models are described. That's why we say in Ashtanga Hridaya Nidana Sthanam, it is not regarding the mentioning of 15 diseases. It's regarding the mention of 15 different pathogenetic models. To that, all the disease process currently existing or rather evolving in our world is going to come up. So that is the power of that model strategy, is that whatever disease may come up in future, it will belong to that particular models. So they are very big umbrella syndromes. Never translate Jwara as fever. Never translate Pandu as anemia. Never translate Vadaraktam as rheumatoid arthritis. They are more than that. Instead, the fever comes into the spectrum of Jwaram. Anemia comes into, iron deficiency anemia comes into the spectrum of Pandu. Rheumatoid arthritis belongs to the spectrum of, may belong to the spectrum of Vadaraktam. Likewise, other autoimmune diseases like SLE or Sjogren's syndrome. Likewise, so these individual diseases can be derived from models. The individual diseases, if somebody comes with a rheumatoid arthritis, we look into the Samprapti, which is constructed for that particular patient. And if that Samprapti is pointing towards the chapter called Vadaraktam, we will go to that particular model. And we will try to place that particular patient under the heading of Vadaraktam. But sometimes after construction of Samprapti, if we can see that that particular patient is now having a match to the model called Jwaram, we will bring that patient to the model called Jwaram and select medicines from that particular area. I still remember when I was having my second Roshan classes going on, at that time, it was the first time when Mahadevan sir visited our campus, and he presented almost 30 cases of Vadaraktam, which he had treated only by using the principles from Jwara Chikitsa Adhyayam. So that was essentially a very inspirational lecture from him. We couldn't understand anything because he was talking about all the subtle aspects of diagnosis and treatment. But we were inspired of the fact that when the patient comes after our diagnosis, it is very much flexible. We can have a resource from Jwara, which can be made available to a patient with a Vadaraktam also. Sorry, with rheumatoid arthritis also. Then on that particular day, our notion that these are all watertight compartments, it washed away. So these are very flexible compartments to which you can bring the patient. And if you go further into Chikitsa Sthanam, in that particular area, you can find where your patient is standing and you can derive the appropriate procedures and medications and pathya from that particular juncture. This is the way the Samhita is constructed. So these are not simple diseases. These are pathogenetic models or umbrella syndromes. For example, the Jwara model is a model with a hallmark signature feature, that is expulsion of Agni to Bahya and Madhyama Roga Marga. If you see that if Agni is pushed into Bahya Roga Marga, and sometimes if the ojas of the patient is too weak, it may be entering into the Madhyama Roga Marga and kill the patient. And such a model, you say it is Jwara. If there is a birth of a new pathological entity called Raktapitam, which is a metabolic variant and that results in bleeding, we say it is a Raktapitta. And if there is Kaphasanjaya in Rasa and Rakta and there is Sarva Sharira Prasaranam, we say the patient is belonging to the model called Pandu. But as this model-based diagnostic processes were happening and as the time flight past, we can say later Samhitas came into being, and maybe during that time, the patient volume might have increased. There you want rapid diagnosis and rapid treatment. Sorry. For that purpose, they had the later Acharyas had tried to derive diseases under each pathogenetic model, like what our biomedical counterparts now are doing about. They responded to epidemiological challenges by documenting them into textbooks. This is a very, very important fact. That many a time it is stated that Ayurveda is a very frigid science where everything has been documented. No, our Acharyas has essentially worked to incorporate the newly emerging disease processes into our Samhita and tried to find out unique solutions. See, many a time we will be talking about Charaga, Susruta, Vagpada, likewise only. But we need to talk more about Chakravani Datta, Govinda Das, Hava Mishra, Shankara, Basavaraja, Sodala, Ugraditya, etc., who were later the clinicians through the centuries. What all exuberant textbooks they have contributed to the clinical arm of Ayurveda by strengthening it. You go to Vaishyaja Ratnavali, Chakradatta, Hav Pragasha, or the Basavarajian. We can see the vibrancy of the clinical practice that has been going through at that time when they have lived. So these master clinicians through centuries has tried to derive new disease processes. For example, they had derived a Sangraha Grahani, Pravahiga, etc., which we can see in Madhava Nidanam. Firangam is a very classical example in Bhava Prakasam, where in 16th century, when the people from Portuguese landed in India and started having marital relationships with our people, there started a communication, there started a spread of sexually transmitted diseases. And these diseases, when somebody is coming to OPD and showing that there is a genital ulceration, we can treat them on the basis of taking that particular patient into the model called Vranam or a model called Visarpam. by using the major Samhita. But going to that area, then going to the model, again placing that particular patient in appropriate area. Likewise, if the patient volume is high, they want rapid diagnosis. So here a new disease is carved out on the basis of distinguishing whether the patient is having a sexual contact with a particular person or not. And then there is option for rapid treatment also. The same time, Bhava Misra has identified a new drug which has been imported to India at that time. It is known as Madhusnuhi, Smilax China, and it has been developed as a mainframe treatment agent against this Firangaroga. And we can see different similar individual disease processes in many other textbooks, like even Vrikka Rogam in Bhishyajaratnavali. Many a time we will be writing Sarvado Bhadravadi, which is available for many pharmacies currently also. And that Sarvado Bhadravadi has its placement in the Vrikka Rogam in Bhishyajaratnavali. So all these disease processes, newly, but if somebody is going to treat a patient with the Vrikka Rogam, he might be using the resources from Mutrakhadam chapter in Ashtanga Hridayam. It is present already there. Likewise, the Amlapittam is present under the area of Gulma in Ashtanga Hridayam. So likewise, the later Samhita had tried to develop new diseases rather than the pathological models, because the development of pathological models had reached its pinnacle at the time of major Samhita itself. And this is the way Ayurvedic diagnosis has been evolved through centuries. Likewise, that they have developed the patterns of Abhindra Vigridi Parambara. Then they have tried to derive the Vyadhi or pathogenetic models they have developed. And then they had derived the disease processes. And how we arrive at the diagnosis is also very important. We are trying to initially, when we get a patient, what we do from the Lakshanas, we are trying to derive Abhindra Vigridi Parambara. On the basis of that, we are plotting that particular patient into a pathogenetic model. This is known as Vyadhi Pratyaniga approach. Then we are making the pathogenetic model more doshadi specific, dosha, dhadu, srodas, agni, etc. This is dosha pratyaniga approach. And we can go one step ahead, likewise, by making this doshic diagnosis, guna specific, to say whether this particular pitta dosha, pitta vritti seen is due to increased tikshna bhava or increased drava bhava of pitta. Likewise, guna specificity can also be added. And we can add another different dimension in this 21st century, is making this pathogenetic model contemporary disease specific. So, for example, somebody has been diagnosed as rheumatoid arthritis. After construction of the Samprapti, we are plotting him into Vadaraktam. Now, for that particular rheumatoid arthritis, we can add another broad area of medical knowledge, that is, using the investigations and imaging, we can develop a new disease entity called rheumatoid arthritis. We are not developing, we are on the basis of the descriptions, we are trying to match whether this patient is having rheumatoid arthritis or SLE. Sometimes that happens to be fruitful in an area where if SLE is developing, there is a chance that a component of attack may even direct towards the kidneys. So we can have an extra protection. So likewise, adding a different dimension will be useful if you are a Vaidya with a short span of experience only. But if there is if a person the seasoned experience in Ayurveda, he can readily tell from the status of Kleda that this particular Vadarakta patient is going to get affection of the Vasti or Mahamarma in later phase or not, by looking into the clinical aggressiveness of the situation. So these are the way the different dimensions of Ayurvedic diagnosis developed. Now we can see an example. A lethargic patient is presenting with a pallor. We plotted him into Pandu, later made a Dosha Pratyaniga diagnosis as Kapaja Pandu, then Guna Pratyaniga as Shida Sthira Guna Dushta Kapaja Pandu, and later we are adding another dimension to it by using CBC, peripheral smear, bone marrow biopsy, etc. You are making a modern clinical diagnosis as leukemia. But your diagnosis of Kapaja Pandu, Shidasthira Gunadushta Kapaja Pandu, is going to be your guiding light in selecting the drugs and procedures, and only that is going to work. If you are going to think in terms of leukemia, what is going to happen? You might be thinking that the white blood cells are rapidly dividing. The rapidly dividing is something regarding Vada dosha. So you have to go and pacify Vada. Then you are in the wrong place. You are in the wrong place. You are misguided. Now, the Ayurvedic diagnosis, the real clinical Ayurvedic diagnosis operates in a different way, saying that this is Kapaja. So this is the difference in approach. We can read the modern diagnosis. We can go for the modern diagnosis uh, only to have an eye regarding that particular evolving disease. But if you want to treat the particular patient, you should be thorough with the disease models. You have to be thorough with the model called Pandu, and you should be able to diagnose in a dosha pratiniga way, guna pratiniga way, and also by using the parameters which I am going to mention in later, you need to correctly, sharply predict what is going to happen in this particular phase of the Kriya Kala. So likewise, our diagnosis, our diagnostic modality will be the guiding light in selection of medicine and procedures, not the modern one. And now coming to some other examples I have written, I am skipping all those things. The one example is Gudamarga Nirodhanam, something which is going to create a block of the Gudamarga. It is denoted as arses. And in ancient period, they might have used proctoscopes so that they might be seeing this disease only in the distal half of rectum. Whereas now we are armed with the technology, we are having colonoscopy, and on doing colonoscopy, if you find a similar lesion in ascending colon, that can also be put into the area of arsoroga, because there is a similarity. If left untreated, that can result in the blockade of the gastrointestinal tract. So here the investigation has widened the scope of our diagnosis. That's what I want to convey to you. By using an investigation, many a time, the scope of our diagnosis increases. The medicines can be given that levels too. And now I am skipping these comparisons. These are all regarding mm, the different aspects of different diagnoses. One story is regarding the two entities, Rakta and Vada. We are having Raktagada Vadam, Raktavrada Vadam, and Vada Raktam. How to clinically differentiate these three clinical entities? If there is a uh, a setting which happened in Rakta, which is inviting Vada to that particular place, we say it is Raktagada Vadam. Why Vada is going to Raktam? Because that particular the Rakta Dhatu has become a favorite place of resonance of Vada. That means the Guna Vidyana has happened, and because of that particular Guna Vidyanam, the Vada is very favorable to reside in Rakta, creating a lot of clinical entities. And what about Rakta over the Vadam, in which Rakta has vitiated in such a way that it is very strong now. It is having the capacity to overpower the normal Gadi of Vadam, then it is known as Rakta over the Vadam. And if the Rakta is impeding the normal circulation of Vada, and Vada in return is going to block the normal circulation of Rakta, then there is Anyonya Avarnam happening. And in that context, we say it is Vadaraktam. See, by clinically distinguishing these three entities, we can adopt different strategies in three different patients. So the very curious fact is that we are having two entities only, Rakta and Vada. By the way, the nature of interaction, because of the difference in the nature of interaction, we have plotted the difference in the nature of interaction, and accordingly the diseases are managed by different differentials. So what and how we are going to arrive at these diagnoses? Our tools are basically Aptobadesham, Pratyaksham, Anumanam, and Yukti. These are our tools. And our methods are Dashavida Pariksha, which is reserved for making statements regarding the Rogi, the patient who harbor the disease process. And the Nidana Panchakam is the tool or the method to identify the characteristics of the Rogam. So, Roga Pariksha, Nidana Panchakam, and Yogi Pariksha, Dashavida Pariksha. And the Dashavida Pariksha mentioned in the Vimanasthanam of Charaka Samhita happens to be the epitome of personalized, precise diagnosis. So, I may say there is nothing ahead of that. We cannot develop a more personalized type of diagnosis more than what is mentioned in Dashavida Pariksha in Charaka Samhita. And there we are grouping those 10 different bhava into two, that is Prakriti Navabhava and Vigriti. And Prakriti Navabhava states about the strength of the internal strength of the patient to withstand the illness. And Vigriti Nirupanam says about the strength of disease process in relation to this particular patient. So, Adura Bala Pramana Pariksha in context of Vyadhi Bala Pramanam is being done in Dashavida Pariksha. That's why I am saying it is a very personalized diagnosis. And in the diagnosis of Sara, one among of those components, even the societal growth of a patient, the societal growth of a particular person, because of the excellence of his dhadu is mentioned. You can see in many references like that, Vittam, Saubhagyam, Aishwaryam, etc. are mentioned. That means if that particular patient is having a Sara, an excellent Sara of one particular dhadu, even his stand in the society will change. So it measures the societal growth of a patient to into this diagnosis, so that Adura Bala Pramana is very precisely mentioned, and then Vyadhi Bala Pramana is mentioned. So these are mentioned in the context, not as separate entities. And this is a most advanced version of personalized clinical diagnosis around the globe. And now you can see there are three entities, Adura Bala, Vyadhi Bala, and accordingly, on understanding Adura Bala and Vyadhi Bala, we need to identify the Aushadha Bala. Adura Bala, we say there is Pravara Adura Bala, and if there is Avara Vyadhi Bala, we need only Avara Aushadha. But in case of a Pravara Vyadhi, if there is Pravara Vyadhi Bala and if there is Avara Adura Bala, we cannot use Pravara Bala Aushadhi in that particular patient. So this happens nowadays also. Those patients who are very fragile, if they are made to undergo certain treatments in biomedicine like this chemotherapy, etc., we used to hear that they succumb to that therapy rather than or the on disease process. This is because of the mismatch that is happening between the construction of Adura Bala, Vyadhi Bala, and Aushadha Bala. So we are having three different entities like say the Chitragadi Kashayam, Chirivilladi Kashayam, and Palladagam. Likewise, if you rate something which is having Kapaharatva, how can you employ the Palladagam in a case where there is Pravara Vyadhi Bala but Avara Adura Bala? So this is the use of Dashavida Pariksha, that is to fix or titrate the Aushadha Bala according to the Adura Bala and Vyadhi Bala. And coming to the Nidana Panchakam, it is the characterization of disease with respect to the deceased. So you should never think that Roga Pariksha is something different from, or it is a separate entity with respect to Rogi Pariksha. So it is a characterization of disease, yes, but with respect to the deceased person. It helps us to plot the clinical symptoms into a pathogenetic model. Likewise, what I have told you earlier, and it constructs the entire script from a single episode of a web series. It's just like you are seeing a web series. You are asked to see or rather a mega serial. If you are asked to see the 20th episode of that mega serial, and you are asked to tell us what is the script. The technology, if there is any technology to do it, that is known as the construction of Samprapti. We are seeing that particular patient only in one instance, but years back, the disease activity might have started. The Samprapti has started operating. Now we are going to construct what has happened in that patient's life that made this particular patient bedridden, and what is going to happen 1 year after this consultation if we are not intervening. If we are not intervening, what is going to happen in this patient if this patient is lying like that, or if this patient's situation will worsen, or rather whether he will die or not. So we are going to construct the entire script, entire natural history of a particular patient's disease by seeing a single episode. So that construction is known as the Samprapti. And it is just like identifying this movie. I just put a uh, for some type of equivalences that this is a criminal investigation movie, and it's just like identifying the criminal from the crime scene. But many a time the police officers do that after committing the crime. But now what we are doing as Nidanam specialists, what we are doing, we are identifying the criminal when the crime is not yet finished. The crime is finished, the death will happen, and there is no point in going to investigate in our case. But as a doctor, when you identify the perpetrators of the Samprapti, the Nidana Khadaga, and if you are identifying what is happening in this particular patient, we will be identifying the criminals when the crime is yet being conducted. It is not finished. So this is the marvel behind the Roga Nidanam. And what we do is actually the doshic mapping of the body. We are identifying the status of doshas, subdivisions in an extensive way, mapping out the current status of dosha, which may change at any time. See, we are going to see a patient with a cough. He is saying productive cough, yellow color. We are saying that is very productive yellow color cough is coming, pitta kapha kasa. And we are giving medicines. And after some days, the patient is going to tell you that it has become very dry. Now the diagnosis has changed. It is changed from Pitta Kapha Kasa to Vadadika Kasa. So likewise, the doshic mapping will be having a good therapeutic value. And if you can map the status of Abanavada in Kasa, the status of Udanavada in dementia, the status of Yanavada in Parkinson's and vertigo, the status of Yanavada in erectile dysfunction, and the status of Pajakapitta in hypothyroidism, the status of Rajakapitta in hypopigmentation or depigmentation disorders, the status of Kleda Kapha in non-ulcerative dyspepsia, and the status of Slasher Kapha in NEOA. So all these factors, if you can map out correctly, the diagnosis will be more specific and the medicine selection will be more and more unique, and you will be requiring less and less of medicines. And now comes the Dhadu and Srotas mapping. So somebody who is having loss of appetite, essentially we will write the Rasadhadu. What about hair fall and premature graying? It also comes under the terrain of Rasadhadu. Erectile dysfunction, Clybium, comes under Shukla Dushti as well as Rasadushti. So somebody is having erectile dysfunction coming to you, and instantaneously erectile dysfunction, your thought process goes in a different direction, writes Ashwagandha. Ashwagandha being Guru and Ushnam. Sometimes what will happen, essentially that was a Rasadushti only. And you will pollute the Rasadhatu more by giving Ashwagandha. Instead, you might have given, if you had recognized it is due to the Rasadushti Janya Clybium, you might be giving Chiruladi Kashayan to that particular patient. So that might have cleared his disease process. So likewise, the involvement of Medo Dhadu in Prameham. Many a time, the recent investigations are coming to the point that Prameha, or so the so-called diabetes mellitus, is not a disease of blood sugar. Instead, it is a disease of the subcutaneous omental fat. The inflammation is happening in that particular area. New theories are stating, see, Medodhadu, Vrikau Moolam Vapavahanam. So the Vapavahanam, how the Pagam is happening in that particular area. How the Medodhadu is getting Drava. We say, Bahudrava Sleshma Dosha Vishesha. Bahu abattam cha medo mamsam shariraja kledam chuklam shonidam vasamajja lesiga rasascha oja sankhyaada. Idi dushya vishesham. Like all the essential elements of the body except asti is getting liquefied in the case of prameha, and that liquid kleda is excreted from the body through mutra, and continuous excretion may lead to saumya dhadukshaya, leading to vadiga prameha. And many a time, this excretion, as it goes continuously through the vrka, it is later affected. So likewise, you can bring in very good connections between the different areas if you can map the dhatu and srotas. Involvement of pranavada and rasadhatu in COPD, which is progressing to cor pulmonale. Many times the patient may ask if we are continuously, somebody who is continuously having asthma for many years, they might be asking, yes, I am taking puffs every time. You're taking this inhalers every time. What is wrong with that? There is nothing wrong with that, except if you are going to have an Ayurvedic treatment to curtail the inflammation process that is happening in between. See, when there is continuous dushti of something which is going through the srodas, for example, the pranavada, it can affect the srodas in a later period, and later this dushti of srodas can lead to the dushti of the srodo mula. For example, hridaya in this particular case, later it may progress to the asthma or to COPD may further, finally, years after can progress to affect the heart also. And the track of progress is like this. When there is Nidana factors starting to operate, there is dosha dushti happens. And when there is dosha dushti happens, it may lead to the involvement. The doshas may start their journey from the kostam to the Bahiroga Margam. And in the Bahiroga Margam, they are interacting with the dhatu. And once they interact with the dhatu Vahasrodas will also get polluted. And later, after many years, the Srodo Moolam is affected. So what we see in COPD and ILD ending as cor pulmonale, diabetes mellitus progressing to diabetic nephropathy, fatty liver is progressing to cirrhosis. All these are examples of this process operating. And we can have, there is an interesting area in the syllabus like Roga Margam and Doshagati. Many times we are confused. And Doshagati is the route, Roga Margam is the predicted destination, indicating the clinical aggressiveness. See, Doshagati is the route through which the doshas are traveled once they are vitiated. Just like in the coming conversations, you are all planning to come to Navakare. So Navakare happens to be the Roga Margam. And the way you reached there are multiple ways to reach Navakari. You can reach out from Palakkad in Kerala. You can reach from Coimbatore city after flying down from anywhere in the India or from outside. So many a way is there to reach the Navakari. And the route through which you reached out to Navakari is the Doshagiri, whereas the Roga Margam is the preferred or predicted destination. What Acharya has done, according to destination, he has graded the clinical aggressiveness of the issue. See, when the doshas travel to Bahiroga Marga, and in the Bahiroga Marga, they will, if they are very aggressive, they are trying to push further into the Madhyama Roga Marga. And as I told you earlier, Madhyama Roga Marga happens to be the sanctum sanctorum, where the essential framework, essential life exists, because there is presence of Marma, Mahamarma, etc. And there is a guardian angel of this sanctum. It is known as the Ojas. And the Ojas prevents the entry of the doshas into Madhyama Roga Marga. And when the Ojas is less, the doshas can suddenly access the Madhyama Roga Marga, and it can destroy the functions of Mahamarma. So this is the way we say many a time the people we have seen in the COVID-19 episode 2, where the people in Africa, many of the African countries were very poor and they were not having any access to the vaccination. The impact of COVID was very less. Whereas in areas where the tertiary or quaternary facilities are in the paramount, just like as we see in the case of US, the technological medicine is at it's the mecca of technological medicine. There, the death rate was comparatively very high. So what is the reason? Because of the continuous use of the so-called biomedicine things, the so-called artificial things, improper dietary factors, improper lifestyle, improper sleep pattern, all those contributed to reduction of ojas, and that's why the doshas have much more easier access into the Madhyama Roga Marga. So the predicted destination is very important. If the doshas have reached Madhyama Roga Marga, the clinical aggressiveness is high. And once the clinical aggressiveness is high, the doctor should also be in a much more aggressive mode. The selection should be more preferred. See, you are having Punarnavadi Kwadam. If you are having Shobham in Madhyamaroga Margam, it's not going to work. It's not a golden choice. It's not a gold standard. Instead, you should select Dashamulam or Arthavidam. So likewise, the distinguishing the Roga Margam is very, very important in the selection of medicines too. And likewise is the concept of Kriyagalam. Kriyagalam is nothing, is not an entity to be studied and written in the textbook and, in the answer sheet and to be forgotten. It should be worked up daily in the clinical practice. Somebody who is coming with a diabetic neuropathy or retinopathy, they should be termed as not as the diabetic patients. They should be evaluated from the parlance of Prameha, whether they are having Upadrava or Sannipada Dosha Dushti in Prameha. So likewise is the concept of Pururubam, Upadravam, and Arishta. So all these concepts need to be accessed in the consultation table itself and to be made available for the benefit of the patient. Why we are doing all this? To give benefit to the patient. If these concepts are not providing any benefit to the patient, what is the purpose of learning that other than writing in the examination paper? And also there are different functional axes happening in the body. We are all familiar regarding the hypothalamo pituitary ovarian axis. Likewise, there is Agni Rasa Vyana Manas axis, Prana Agni Abana axis working in the body. So these axes needs to be perceived, understood, and see, somebody is having a high mental stress who is doing work as an IT professional with a lot of deadlines. He will be having an immediate Rasadushti, an Agnidushti, immediate Agnidushti leading to Rasadushti, and this Rasa is going to nourish his mind. It is going to vitiate his mind further, and he is going to having the Vyana Dushti also. So he is having a tendency to develop certain diseases which are earmarked as the diseases of Vyanavada. So likewise, the plotting of axis, if the patient is having this particular axis vitiated, that can give you excellent insights into the diagnostic processes, the disease processes that is happening in that particular patient's body. And coming to another concept, we say the dosha dhatu samurjanam is leading to rogam, and we will get into a thought that it happens instantaneously. Sometimes it may happen instantaneously. Sometimes, if the dhatu is so weak, what will happen? It will lead to the dosha leenata. And there are two important situations will evolve at that particular time. See, why I have selected this picture. Because in Ashtanga Sangraham, there is a sloga saying that the Lina Dhadu, the Lina Dosham which is lying inside the Dhadu is just like a seed which is lying inside the soil. Humosthidam Jalehi Siktam Kalam Eva Pradikshade. He's a poet. Vakada is a poet. So Vakada is stating very in a poetic way that it's just like a seed. Anguraya yatha bijam, dosha bijam, jware tatha. So Anguraya yatha bijam, it is going to germinate once it is getting appropriate kalam, appropriate amount of water. So bhumaustidam jalaihi siktam kalam eva pradikshade. It is expecting kalam. So likewise, instead of seed, you should think this is dosha. And what is germinating out is roga. Where it is situated is dhatu. Why it is situated in Dhadu? Because Dhadu now happens to be a favorable place for residence of the dosha. That's why the dosha is getting inside the Dhadu. Now the question is what the dosha is going to do the Dhadu. It is creating disruption in the function of Dhadu. But is the Dhadu going to remain silent? No, it is going to metabolize this unwelcomed dosha. So there was a movie which showed a situation like this. That was Drishyam, in which an unwelcomed guest came to one family and they killed him. And this killing is known as Doshapagam. But what will happen in this procedure when Doshapagam goes uncontrolled? If the ojas is not proper, what will happen? The ojas will not protect the dhatu from this paga process, and dhatu pagam will happen. So when dhatu pagam happens, what will happen? Who is preventing this dhatu pagam? Dhatu pagam is being prevented. The dhatu pagam, the term means the dhatu itself is getting metabolized because of dhatokni. See, the question arises, who is going to metabolize the dosha on behalf of dhatu? The dhatokni. So if the dhatokni is improper, it is going to metabolize the dhatu in which it is staying. Who prevents it? Who protects it? It is nothing other than the dhatu saram, which is showing out as ojas, which is visible outside as belam, and which reflects as vyadhikshamatvam. See, these four terms are almost equivalent, yet it is having slight different purposes. So, vyadhikshamatvam is vyadhi bala virodhitvam, vyadhi ulpadaka pradibandhakatvam. What is the background factor for vyadhikshamatvam? It is the belam of the patient. Pragradastu belam sleshma, the good sustaining bioenergy in the body. That is what is belam. From where the belam originates, it is the ojas. And what is this ojas? Ojas is the output of excellence of all dhadus. So the dhadu saram in turn reflects in the quality of vyadhikshamatvam, and it may prevent or it may not prevent the dhatu pagam happening if it is not proper. And you can see a lot of emerging conditions like inflammatory fibrosis, autoimmunity, cancers. In all these conditions, the concept of linam, concept of dhatu pagam is very, very important. If you are not knowing the concept of dhatu pagam and linam, you cannot go into the territories of autoimmunity and cancer, advanced inflammatory bowel diseases, interstitial lung diseases, pancreatitis. You cannot operate on those diseases unless you are very thorough with the concepts of dhatu pagam and linam. And there is a very beautiful pathogenetic triad mentioned in Charaka Samhita in the Nidana Sthanam, Prameha Nidanam. Everyone should read that Nidana dosha dushya visheshebhyo vigara vighada bhava abhava pradivishesha bhavandi. The connection between the Nidanam, Dosham, and Dushyam, the strength of interaction between these factors, this results in the manifestation or non-manifestation of a disease process. I request all the students who have registered for the Tattva Prakashini should go back and read this Nidana Sthanam of Charaka Samhita as well as Ashtanga Hridayam. As well as you should refer the 3 chapters, Doshadi Vijnaniyam, Dosha Bhediyam, Doshopakramaniyam, which is mentioned in Ashtanga Hridayam Sutra Sthanam 2 before coming to the conversations. Then only you can enter into meaningful conversations. So, and this chapter, the Prameha Nidanam of Charaka Samhita, Nidana Sthanam is excellent in that it places the importance of the Nidanam, not only the Nidanam, Dosham and Dushyam, but their interaction. How they are interacting, how the Nidanam is influencing dosha, how the dosha is going to influence the dushya. And this results in the manifestation or non-manifestation of disease entities. So we should understand that we are not managing a simple disease. It's not just like a fever, give paracetamol. It's not like a sneezing, give montelukast. It is not like a pain, give mephtal fort. It's not like that. It's not simply between a disease and a medicine. It's not simply between a disease and a medicine. Instead, a lot of factors need to be brought into the consultation table, including the desha, including the kala. Nowadays, I see that the relevance of desha and kala is increasing day by day. If somebody is who is having interstitial lung disease, they should never go to a place where there is more pollution and more cold. See, somebody who is already having interstitial lung disease, if he is going to New Delhi in the December, January, February, March seasons, he is going to, it's equivalent to committing suicide. He's going to aggravate the disease. Somebody who is having a tendency of autoimmunity in the body, in the family, who is going to migrate to European nations, they should take great preference, preventive steps by consulting an Ayurveda doctor and doing the Panchakarma techniques. Why? Because autoimmunity many a time is triggered by the change in the place and especially to the cold climate. Many a time, previously it was mentioned that autoimmunity is a disease of temperate climate. Now it is changed. Yet, moving to temperate climates may lead to the trigger of autoimmunity in patients. So, desha is very important. Kala is very important. So, all those factors will come to stand between the disease and medicine, and you should be a master in identifying which needs to be considered, which need not be considered in this particular moment. That comes into the art. That's why I have placed the art of Ayurvedic diagnosis. It's not simply a mechanistic process. Likewise, somebody coming with a dyspnea and you write a chest X-ray, going back with the coming back with X-ray and looking into X-ray, you state some facts. It's not like that. It's not like sending somebody to an ultrasound scan and getting the scan report and reading that report, thinking that it is correct, going to treat it. See, there are fallacies in that. It's not like that. It's just like sitting with the patient, uh, taking him back to his home and workplace and see how he is eating, what he is eating, how he is sleeping, what is his defecation pattern, urination pattern, sweating pattern, smell of sweat, what is the time of his bathing of head, how many times he baths head every day or once or twice a week, what is the oil he uses, what is his sexual pattern, all those things regarding aharam, nidra, brahmacharyam will come to stand in between the disease as well as medicine. So it's not simply a disease. We are going to manage a patient who is harboring Abhyantara Vigrati Parambara, and the documentation of Vigrati Parambara, pattern recognition of Vigrati Parambara should happen. Pattern recognition, it's a pattern recognition. So how efficiently you are recognizing a pattern, how much efficiently you are optimizing a patient into that particular pattern will bring the success in your clinical practice. And as we see, the roga is happening because of a pathogenetic chain. That is, there is a hedu. That hedu is bringing in dosha dushti, and this dosha dushti tends to percolate through the srotas, and it reaches a particular dhatu in Bahiroga Marga, develops the disease in that particular area, and now that particular area is termed as Roga Adhishtanam. It leads to development of Rogam. So this development of Rogam is well captured in the lines of Vakpada when he says, Pradirogam idi krutha Rogadhishtana gamini rasayini prabhatyashu dosha dehe vigurvade. So while studying sloga, essentially it is very nice to ask certain questions to that sloga. So here the question, who is doing this? What is happening here? Dehe vigurvade. The deha is going to get destroyed. Next question, who is going to destroy it? It is dosha. Why the dosha is, what type of dosha is going to destroy it? So, krutha dosha. Why it became krutha? The answer is pradirogam idi krutha. As per the disease, as per the nidana will be there. That nidana will vitiate the dosha, and pradirogam idi krutha dosha is going to create the destruction of body. How that destruction is going to happen? It is by prabhadya rasayanihi prabhadya. It is by accessing, gaining access to the rasayani, gaining access to the channels. When this vitiated dosha gains access to the channels, then it will move through those channels and will create vitiation of dhatu. Where it will create vitiation of dhatu, it is happening in rogadhishtanam. So these rasayani will be moving to the rogadhishtanam, and through that rasayani, which is moving towards this rogadhishtanam, this on gaining access to that rasayani, this krutha dosha is going to destroy your body. Maybe your rogadhishtanam is in madhyama roga margam. Maybe you will be dying instantaneously or in a very chronic process. So this is the way. So Acharya says, Ashu dosha dehe vigurvade. It will gain access instantaneously. Once it is krutha, it is pradirogam krutha, it will gain access to these rasayanis instantaneously, and then there is chance that it is going to destroy your body. So this happens to be the soul of Roga Nidanam. This sloga happens to be the last sloga of Ashtanga Hridayam, Nidanasthanam, first chapter, Sarvaroga Nidanam. He had written the soul, the seed of Roga Nidanam in that particular slogam. If one knows this particular slogam, one applies this particular slogam in the consultation table, it happens to be the greatest benefit to his patients. So that this particular slogam happens to be the theme of the conversation. And the track of our conversation, which is going to happen in Navakare, is based on this sloga. And we are going to discuss about how and why the vitiation of doshas happen, where are they going to travel, and what are the channels of conduction, how are they going to affect the dhatu, how dhatu is going to respond to vitiated dosha, who is going to prevent the dhatu pagam, what are the methods of assessment through which we perceive this phenomenon, and how can we show these fundamental principles as applications in certain case scenarios. We are having good discussions regarding Jwaram, Grahani, Vadaraktam, Vadavyadhi, etc. at the end of the session, after going through these different essential fundamental pathological principles. So it seems to be very interesting to be a part of this discussion. This is going to build up certain declarations we will term it as Coimbatore Declaration, where we are going to brainstorm in these days how this is going to happen by placing the textbook in front of us. And we are having the finest of exponents, finest of clinicians who are going to assemble there to talk to us, to shine illumination on our doubts, to clear our gray zones, to make us elevate high into our clinical practice. So this is the track and terrain of our conversation. And before closing, I may remind you certain things that in 2000, why we are doing all these exercises. Is it just merely to reinstate certain theoretical things and to state that our Acharya was excellent? No, it's not like that. We are going to we are going to enter into conversation. We are studying Nidanam to serve these people. See, 9.6 million people died of cancer in 2018. And 1,000 people die a day due to myocardial infarction around the globe. 15 million people suffer from cerebrovascular accidents. More than 200 million people are now having COPD. There are 425 million people with diabetes. And 1 in 6 or roughly 1 billion people are affected by hypertension. Over 50 million people suffers from chronic kidney disease. More than 10 million people now live with Parkinsonism. And around 10 million people are affected with the iron deficiency anemia. And the question is, where are you, dear Ayurvedis? Do you want to prevent these illnesses? Are you able to manage these cases? Do you want to manage these cases? Do you want to provide exemplary care to those who suffer? Do you want to bring the patients back to their beingness? My answer as a practicing clinician is yes to all these questions. I want to prevent this illness. I want to manage these cases. I want to provide exemplary care to who are suffering, and I want to bring the patients back to their beingness. I hope that all your answers is yes. All of you will answer yes to all these questions. And I am very sure that by using Ayurvedic tenets, Ayurvedic principles, its medicines, procedures, and other advices, we can prevent, we can manage, we can provide exemplary care, and we can bring the patients back to their beingness if the patient is brought to us in the right time. So for this purpose, we are coming into the framework of Ayurvedic diagnosis. We are trying to learn more and practice more at your hospital wards. Before and after going from conversations, we have to take this knowledge back to the ward, back to the bedside, where we have to practice this art of diagnosis. This is a new technique of diagnosis. Some new technique in imaging comes, we are very interested and motivated to learn that. Likewise, another new technique of highly precise, predictive, personalized diagnosis is given to you. We have to imbibe the Shastra Sadbhavam of Roga Nidana. We have to get the culture of Ayurvedic diagnosis and try to understand each word of Chikitsa Sthana from this perspective. And if you can imbibe it likewise, excellent practitioners can be made from the current students. And after going back from the conversation, I may request all of you to be inspired and then practice those things in your hospital wards. And for that purpose, I want to meet you all at Navakare. I thank all of you for this very patient listening. And I feel that I have essentially made a tea time chatter with you regarding this upcoming conversations, what we are going to discuss, why we are going to discuss that particular points, and to whom we are going to contribute. And I want to meet you all at Navakari. Thank you very much. I thank the organizers, especially Dr. Srija Mohandas, for giving me this opportunity to have a few slides with you, a good conversation with you. Thank you very much. Namaste.
Thank you. On behalf of Ayurveda Conversations 2025, I extend our heartfelt gratitude to Dr. Rahul for today's enlightening session. Your clarity, depth, and engaging approach have helped us look at Nidana with fresh eyes, reminding us that diagnosis in Ayurveda is truly an art and holds together the entire science of healing. So we deeply appreciate your time, effort, and wisdom. And thank you for guiding us into the spirit of Nidana and for inspiring us to step into Ayurveda Conversations 2025. Before we disperse, let me give you a brief outline about joining Ayurveda Conversations. And Ayurveda Conversations is a platform of reflective dialogue, bringing together teachers, clinicians, researchers, and students to engage deeply with us fundamental principles of Ayurveda. Each year, we focus on one central theme that shapes our discussions. This year, the theme is dedicated to Nidana, the art and science of understanding the cause and pathways of disease. So, Ayurveda Conversations, as such, is not designed as a series of one-way lectures. Instead, it is rooted in the timeless concept of Tadvidya Sambhasha, uh, the very foundation of Ayurveda evolution. So, the very this means coming together as peers, engaging in dialogue and understanding each other's perspective, and moving the science forward through shared inquiry. Each session is structured as each session. Tirtha, you can cancel the screen sharing. Each session is structured as conversation. A moderator, a peer in the field guides the dialogue with two or more gurus, inviting their insights drawn from diverse backgrounds. The session is then chaired by Dr. S.K. Khandel, who plays the role of our Atraya Punarvasu for this gathering, helping bring the session to meaningful conclusions and offering clear take-home messages. Importantly, the dialogue is not limited to the guru alone. Shishyas are encouraged to be vocal, to bring in their doubts, challenges, and clinical observations where it is uh, grappling with the concepts like avarana or cases encountered in OP or IP practice. These questions become a living part of the conversation, helping us collectively understand and apply Ayurveda better. So, this interactive, multi-layered structure is what makes Ayurveda Conversations unique, a living classroom where traditions and practice meet. So our conversations begin on 16th September, a date of deep significance, the Punyatithi of Shri P.R. Krishnakumarji. We opened this year's conversation with an inaugural session dedicated to the theme of decolonization. Colonization has left a profound imprint on our entire education model of our country, and Ayurveda has been no exception. And Dr. Rahul has given us a deep or a brief insight into the flow of the sessions, from the Dushta Doshas being the drivers of Samprapti to the Dhatu, Srotas, Roga Marga, and Doshagari, and to the next day, Dosha Dusha Samurchana, Roga Rogi Pariksha, Nidana Panchaka, and then into a few Vishishta Sampraptis like Jwara, Shofa, Grahani, Vadavyadhi, and Vadaraktam. So, and on the last day, we go into the as another special day of significance, uh, which is the birth anniversary of Sri Krishnakumarji and also the National Ayurveda Day. Each day will begin with the Grantha Parayana of Ashtanga Hridaya Nidana Sthana, followed by two in-depth session, and it closes with an evening satsang for reflection. And on the last day, we will conclude with the valedictory ceremony where certificates will be distributed. And this structure is designed to take us deep, step by step, into the art and architecture of Ayurveda diagnosis in true spirit of Tadvidya Sambhasha. All details regarding Ayurveda Conversation 2025, including the complete schedule, speakers, and registration steps are available in our website, which is ayurvedaconference.com/conversation. And you can log in and you can see all the details there. There are steps which are mentioned for completing the registration. If there is any difficulty that you find during the process, you can contact Dr. Tirtha, whose number is also listed in the same page. We are also hosting an online paper presentation contest with the sub-themes listed on our website. All presenters will receive participation certificates, and the top papers will be featured during the Ayurveda Conversation 2025. So if you are interested, you can review the sub-themes and register via our website itself. It is also a wonderful way to bring your insight, clinical experience, and research perspective into the conversation and contribute to the collective learning. And thank you all of us once again for joining us today. We hope you found this session insightful and engaging. We encourage you to actively participate in the coming dialogue, bringing your questions and make the most of this unique opportunity. Let us together make Ayurveda Conversation 2025 an engaging and fulfilling experience for everyone. We look forward to seeing you there. Thank you all. Once again, thank you, Dr. Rao.